Let's get this party started, guys. First of all, happy to be here. Thanks for all the panelists here. Let's start with a provocation. Sports is all over the place. There's almost like a little bit of saturation going on right now. I mean, every single brand wants to get a piece of sports. I come from Oakley, so this is something very normal and very endemic for us. We've been into sport for 50 years now. But we can see a lot of other brands just jumping in the wagon and taking a hike on sports, which is legitimate sometimes. But I think my first question to all of you guys is like, how far can a brand really jump into sports? And how authentic that is and how much this can actually be seen by the consumers as something authentic. Whoever wants to take the lead.
I can go because I work for Chivas Regal, so it's a whiskey brand. So on paper, whiskey Ferrari makes no sense. Whiskey football makes no sense. But I think the point of it is, I think any brand can really play in sports culture if they want to. You just got to find your values, your promise to the consumer, and what makes your brand fit into that space. So for Chivas, we're all about celebration, the connecting people, bringing people together, and the world of sports is all about that. So we focus on watch parties, celebration experiences, stuff that makes the brand show up authentically and gives audiences and consumers a reason to believe.
Okay, so it goes way beyond just the logo placement, and it's like the whole 360 around.
Exactly. That we won't focus on the on-track performance or the on-field performance, because that doesn't make sense for a whiskey brand. But it makes sense for a whiskey brand to show up in the watching occasion, for example.
That makes sense. Any one of you guys?
Hey everyone, it's good to be here. To your question about being in sport, it definitely is an area that more and more brands are trying to enter. And you're definitely getting the perception that it's the next frontier for many, many brands. But you have to earn your place in sport. You can easily see through badging with many brands that either don't have the permissibility to play in the space or haven't built the credibility to play in the space. And so I think the entry into sports has to be careful. It's not to say you can't be in sport, but you have to earn your way in to truly make a difference and to be part of the sports ecosystem, as to be just seen as a brand that's putting their badge there and not actively contributing.
Awesome.
I totally agree. Brands that show up in sport need to add value. If brands show up and add value, they get rewarded by the fans. And I think some things brands forget, that people define themselves by this. It's not just something they consume, it's something they live. So when brands show up into those places, you have to add some value.
Awesome. What's your take on that, Taylor? Being a media guy.
I would say, I think for us at USA Today, we are uniquely positioned in that we cover the entire journey of fandom, from the amateur athlete, sometimes the biggest names in sports, their original data sets, their original interviews were with us as high school athletes. So watching brands align at the high school level, at the college level, at professional and post-professional levels, it's really fascinating to see how, if it's done organically, there's a passion and a loyalty that develops alongside those brands as well. And I think that's where I see uniqueness in many of the campaigns that run with us.
That makes a ton of sense.
Can I make a
sure,
point?
Of course, please.
People always talk about authenticity and earning the right to play in a space. There's a point where I agree with that, just earning a right, but you only earn a right by doing, and so waiting for the moment and playing it safe, you may never earn that right. So I think it's just quite, people use that language a lot, and it always kind of like makes me feel uncomfortable, because I'm just like, you kind of just got to do it, and you learn by doing, and if you're waiting to kind of like do something small and earn it, you're going to be waiting a long time.
So, go big or go home. That's what kind of you're saying.
Just do it. Not Nike, but you know what I mean.
Super fair. Let me take the chance, Oyin. And what do you think that makes a brand really own its space on sport? Because some brands are just taking a hike. Some of them are just for the short run, or they sponsor, one platform or one player. what actually makes it legitimate for a brand to really jump in the wagon and become a brand that has its own space on sport?
I think, like I said, you've just got to find your voice in that community. What is it about that sport that aligns with your brand? What does your brand do that aligns with that sport, with the fan base, with the team? So I think it's just about your alignment, the team's alignment, or the players' alignment, and figuring out a connection.
That makes a ton of sense. One for you, Brad. Being in such a myriad of different sponsorships across sports into all the different verticals of the industry, what is actually the platform for you to really win in sports through culture with such a diverse approach on the verticals that you play with?
I think it always has to start with what you as a brand are trying to achieve. And if you know what your goals and objectives are, then you can assess what is the best mix to get there. So in our case, sports is an opportunity for us where we're not endemic. We're not an endemic brand like Nike or Adidas on the field of play, or Powerade refreshing the fans. But we believe that as a financial institution, we need to build trust and we need to build credibility. And the sports ecosystem offers us that opportunity to find a swim lane that allows us to do that. So the work that we're doing is all about legacy, it's about access, it's about inclusion. And so the example that I'll share with you quickly is one thing that we did with the FIFA World Cup, which was not just about the tournament itself and this massive moment that's taking place right now, but it was about what happens after the tournament. And so in partnership with US Soccer Federation and FIFA, Bank of America have committed to bring soccer to every single school in the US by 2032. And that's a big ambition because currently it's a pay-for-play model in the US. And so as a bank, that feels like a good swim lane for us to be playing in, where we know we can't do it by ourselves. We need to do it with partners, and the partners need partners to make it come to life. So if we can play that video quickly, it will give you a little bit of a sense of what we're doing in the space.
Amazing. Coming to you, my friend. What about the creative angle? Can you hear me well? Okay, the creative angle. I mean, being the head of creative on such an interesting space with all of the creatives trying to chime in, what's the angle of creativity and how does this unlock the full potential for authenticity and for brands in sport?
I think it's important to not show up like a tourist. When people come into sport and just visit and leave, you don't earn your place, to your point. And I think we try to navigate brands in sports, show them where to go, how to show up, and how to connect authentically with the communities that are there. And those people care a lot. So if you can add value in those moments and not just show up for that moment, but be outside of the game as well and be part of culture, that's when you get rewarded.
Amazing. Taylor, as a media platform, how far media can actually, empower culture and sports, going beyond just, the sponsorship?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and a lot of the points that have been made so far on the panel, brands can align with professional, the NBA, the NHL, NCAA, FIFA. But then there's this amplification of that message outside of just that sponsorship through platforms like us that reach 1 out of 2 Americans. So not only are you reaching that fan, but you're reaching that contingent fan or that adjacent fan or that awareness of the content, even though they may not have watched the game, they're looking for the digest. And I think if you find platforms like us that are integrated in with the coaches and the athletic directors and the team managers and unique source content that tells a more organic story than just the game itself. I think there's a real powerful moment there for a brand to get deeper into the arteries of the fan.
Amazing. And one other question to all of you guys, actually. Culture and sports, they play in a very fast pace, right? Speed is part of being able to actually tap into a trend, a culture movement, anything that's going on. How much this is possible in your own worlds? I know that some brands are more fast and agile, some are more slow in the decision making. How to make sure that your organogram and your approval layers can actually go into the speed of culture, which is something pretty amazing in terms of like, the reality that we live on the last mile to take decisions and to take, a trend and to really incorporate and act on the trend. How you guys deal with that in your corporations?
We typically don't jump on trends, but we do prepare for the moments that matter. So, for example, we sponsor Arsenal FC, and this season was their season, and we could see that they were on the pathway to potentially winning the Premier League. And obviously, we're a whiskey brand, and for them, it would have been 22 years since they won the Premier League. So that was preparation for us. So we were like, okay, 22 years, we're whiskey. We can do 22-year-old liquid. So that was preparation in building towards something. And the funniest thing is, it was so scary, because we're like, okay, are we going to press go on making this liquid and getting it ready for the fans when we don't know if they're going to win? And I'm sitting there thinking, if we press go, there's a chance we're going to waste a ton of money. But then there's a chance that if we don't press go on this thing, we're going to miss a moment. So there's an element of preparation and also just having the conviction to know that actually if they do win, it could be really momentous and an amazing occasion. Luckily for us, Arsenal won, and our 22-year-old liquid was there to celebrate that 22-year-old moment.
So you did have a plan B in the case that they didn't win? Or you just like cancel it and okay, let's go to the next one?
The plan B was we're going to have 22-year-old bottles in our stock room.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Brad, what's your take?
I think you have to go slow to go fast. And so, again, if you know why you're involved in sport and you understand the role that sports is playing for your brand, then you've built the brand foundation, which I think is absolutely critical. Because with the right brand foundation, you know where you want to play and where you don't want to play. You know where you want to win and where you're just going to leave the territory alone. And I think that sets you up to then build the right process to be part of culture as quickly as it happens. Now, that takes capability, it takes the right transformation, it takes the right partners to be able to play in that space. And so I think there's a couple of things. Let's get the brand strategy right, understand your role in sport and why you're doing it, and then with your partners, really understand, where culture is and where it's going. And it's sometimes hard to find that out, but sometimes it's easier to do that when you know who you are and you're trying to be who you are versus trying to jump on a bandwagon and be something that you're not. Because that's where it doesn't hit the mark I've seen, and it's harder to get it right.
So if I'm hearing you correct, you have so much trust on your North Star that actually drives everything you do. So everything else becomes almost like a natural activity into where you want to go. So that's all predefined and pre-strategized. So it makes it easier for you to just tap into something knowing that the North Star is respected, correct?
It's not quite as easy as that. But I think the North Star gives you the playbook and the guardrails that you want to play within. It gives you an area that you can focus on as opposed to trying to be everything to everyone. When you know what that is, when you know who your target is and you know what you're trying to achieve, then it becomes a little bit easier to try and work through what that cultural moment is that you're trying to find. And there's ways to do it. Either you want to be at the forefront creating that culture. That's tough. But when you partner with the right partners, influencers, across the ecosystem, you could be at the top of that wave. There are other times where it's about how you react to culture. It's happening, and do you or don't you want to be part of that conversation or be part of that movement? And again, knowing who you are and what you stand for and what you're trying to achieve becomes the key determinant in that. So it's not quite as easy as just setting the strategy and saying go. It's the execution of that strategy through the right process, partners, that becomes then the foundation of getting to that cultural, milestone that you're looking for.
That sounds like a winning formula, 100%. Brian?
Yeah, I'll maybe build off that a little bit because I agree. I think a lot of brands start with, oh my God, this is happening. What do we post? And the question should be, should we even be in this conversation? Sports and culture moves super fast. If a brand in real time is trying to catch up and define who they are for this moment, then you don't belong in that moment. If you know who you are, you can jump into the moments that are right for you and be part of that conversation. But if you just post to post and try to jump on trends, being fast, you're just faster to be irrelevant, in my opinion.
Amazing. Taylor, you have anything different from?
I think all my co-panelists have said the right things. I would say I think there's a unique opportunity that exists for brands, again, to amplify even further by leveraging their social media partners, their traditional media partners like ourselves, to find new and somewhat twisted organic representation of their brands that can continue long past that moment of flash pop culture and embed deeper into the behavior pattern of readers, subscribers, or social media followers. I think there's bigger opportunities to continue the message as long as it's truly organic and authentic outside of that pop culture moment.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me take that hint to ask you the next one. Let's go with you, Taylor. What happens with global brands versus local authenticity? I mean, I think we all like managing global brands, even though if you have like more skin in the game in a particular region or country. I mean, we're all global now, right? I mean, there's not such a thing of like a brand that stays only to its city. So what are the challenges thinking on how to really build something globally that's still authentic and relevant from a local level?
You know, I personally think, a little selfishly, it's about finding the right partners that are entrenched deeply into communities, whether it's a community of a fan base, whether it's a geographic community. You know, we have over 200 plus local markets that we've been deeply entrenched in for decades. In addition, we have a national brand, USA Today, that's so recognizable and used every month by 1 in 2 Americans. So if you find partners like us, again, using sports as the specific example, who are deeply embedded with the coaches at the high school level, the athletic directors at the college level, the athletes throughout their entire journey, then your partnership can be amplified so much bigger and bolder because it's authentic and it's been there through the entirety with a trusted partner who has unique content, not just a score and a pop culture game day moment, but truly deep, unique content that separates and distinguishes and is perfect for brands to come alongside.
Amazing. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking that partnership, cultural nuance, regional nuance. I think when brands show up and reflect and put a mirror back up to the audience and allow them to see themselves and add value again, I've said that a bunch, but I think it's really important to add value to the fan experience. Then I think you have the opportunity to win.
Honest question, from the clients that you have and the partners that we work for, how much you think that people are really having this look on the mirror and seeing if it's authentic for them to jump in or not?
I'm sorry, the first part.
I mean, knowing that you deal with lots of different brands and clients, you know, and how much you feel that the market is ready to really look at the mirror and have this question to see if it's authentic or not to jump in on the
Yeah, I think we put so much weight on data. Data is a reflection of the past. It's super valuable. By the time you can count it, culture's already moved. It's not showing up in the data. Use the data, understand the cultural nuance, tap into people that get it, and then leverage all of that to harness the power of fandom to drive business performance for your client.
Makes sense. What's your take on that, Brad?
You know, I think a good human insight is often universal. The execution of the insight probably needs to change depending on region or geography. And I think that comes to the notion of, you know, the world is a very dangerous place to view from your desk. And so many marketers don't get out into the field, especially if you're trying to build a global campaign and truly understand what's happening on a local level. Speaking to the people in that region, in that locality who know what's happening, that's where the localness of a campaign comes to life. When you've truly got a good global insight that's based on what the brand is trying to achieve, that there's a human connection and tension within that insight, the execution might look slightly different in Asia than it will in Africa, than it will in Europe, than it will in the Americas. But understanding that that insight is the driver, and then also doing the diligence to make sure that the markets that you're working with you're listening to them. And I think that's where sometimes the ivory tower comes into play. When the global team put together a campaign and they just push it out. The co-development, the understanding, that's where I think the sweet spot is. And there's a healthy tension in that often. Those of you that work on global campaigns, but it's taking that step, really trying to understand, work with the folks that are in the markets, and it generally strengthens it too. And what I find in my career is some of the best insights haven't only come from the global team. Very many of the insights of the work that we've done have actually come from a market. And the market, even if it's a small market, has come up with an incredible insight, incredible idea. And then it's the reverse. It's about, well, how do you take that and then scale it versus taking it from the global level and pushing it down? So it's a balancing act. And I don't think there's one playbook that works for everybody. But I think it's a combination of good insight, good brand architecture and understanding what that is, and then really walking in the shoes of the people that you're trying to connect with and communicate with. And I think those steps are sometimes missed in making a campaign global to local or local to global.
So it's all about the best idea, whatever it comes from, right? So you don't really need to force the global point of view to markets, and whenever the idea pops up from a market, you just grab it and make it bigger, correct?
Yeah, you have to build that culture. And that's easier said than done. But sometimes you need to build that culture of trust and two-way communication, and give opportunities to co-develop and be part of the process, as opposed to just, here's the output, go and execute. At the end of the day, when you feel like you have skin in the game, that's when you lean in more, you have more to play for, and you give a lot more to the work that's coming out. So I think it's even a cultural thing within companies in terms of how they do that and how they bring it to life.
Amazing, thank you. Oyin, I think you have a great case to talk about global versus local, right? With your activation on Arsenal. Whatever you want to share on that stream.
I'm trying to think which case you're talking about. I think often we work a lot with our teams. So Arsenal have an impressive knowledge of their fan base globally, similar with Ferrari. So we'll go to them as well and ask them, like, what do you think of this? What's happening in Nigeria? What's happening in Indonesia? They have this wealth of knowledge of their fan base, and we shouldn't underestimate the partners and their involvement in the kind of global, local strategy as well.
Awesome. That's a great case, by the way. Congrats on that one. Guys, I know AI is all over the place. It would be very weird for us not to touch AI in this conversation. So here comes the question. AI can do a lot of stuff, right? It can, hear your consumer. It can do great creative. Big discussion on that. But is it enough, or is there a time when AI is going to help brands to crack the code on how to get skin in the game in an authentic way for sports? What's your take on AI and how much you're using this crazy tool that's actually disrupting all the markets right now? Whoever wants to take the lead.
I think with AI, it's a funny conversation. I know it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. It's so weird to me that we're talking about it. And what I mean by that is AI is like now, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're not using it, why would you not? It's an advantage point in terms of strategic thinking, optimization, and whether we like it or not, the opportunity of AI for creativity is only going to improve and get better and get significantly stronger. So yes, AI is an amazing tool for data analysis, for synthesization, for automation. So yeah, you should be using it, is my perspective.
I think the value proposition of sport is that it's uniquely human. And as long as we are human, we're going to want to play, compete, support. And so I think that sports is one of those areas that still bring that humanity out, for good or for bad sometimes, but generally sports is that connection that is going to keep us grounded and keep us based in who we are as humans. Now, AI can absolutely help amplify, plan, be more efficient, etc. But you can't play in the sports space without understanding the human construct of sports and what sports means to be a human or to be part of that sports ecosystem. So I think AI is it's as you said, it's here. If you're not using it, you're far behind already. But I don't think that it's necessarily the differentiator in the sports space, because the sport itself is what we're clamoring for. That human connection is what we're clamoring for. AI is just it's an assist versus the person that's going to score the goal.
I love that. Totally agree with your take. Brian, what about on the creative side?
Yeah, here's the creative guy saying he doesn't like AI. Not really. I think it's a tool. And when the internet was happening, we were like, oh my God, it's going to ruin everything. And then we just figured out how to use it. AI is a tool we should be using, but it should be one of the tools we use. And it's not going to replace humans. I don't think AI will have taste. It can't curate taste. So you need humans to look at output, look at conversations, and tap into culture, and bring all those things together and use all the tools available to define and redefine who a brand is and how it shows up in sport in a way that humans can interact with and respond to.
That makes total sense. Jason, what's your take?
Yeah, I think for us and for other content producers, the real opportunity is to continue to attract the mass audiences we attract with very unique content, but leverage AI to support and dig through our archives and find that historic, unique content that supports the story and takes the story to a deeper level, instead of waiting for a human being to go pull through all those archives, using our AI resources to pull that data to support the story so we can get that real-time, unique story out to the general masses, but then have all the support behind it for the reader who wants to learn more, engage deeper. And I think that's where we're deploying AI to support our content, so that our sports content, to make it deeper and richer, so that we can concentrate on the unique storytelling that only we can do on the field, live, in person.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Jason. Guys, we are approaching the final sprint of the panel, so I'll leave you guys with one last provocation. What marketers and brand people should stop doing on sports and should start doing immediately? I mean, what they are taking all wrong and they should, it's getting cringe and they should literally stop it tomorrow. And what are the things that should start doing that they are not doing yet? Go, Jason.
I'll start by saying I think just slapping their brand, the no would be just slapping your brand on something. I see it all too often still to this day. There's a lot of very sophisticated, talented marketers in this room, but there are still plenty who just slap a brand on something. And then I think the thing that I would love to see more of is that high school sports engagement. That fandom is rabid. And all too often, it's the future stars. It always is the future stars of America. So how do you embed your brand deeply with that high school rooted fan base? I think is imperative.
I couldn't agree more with that, man. It's all about the fan base. Brian, I'd love to hear your take on that.
I would say stop showing up and saying how many people did we reach, and that being your KPI. And start saying how many people would miss us if we weren't part of this. And that's when you know if you've become part of the fabric of sport as a brand and added value. And I think it's as simple as that.
That's on spot. Go, Brad.
I think you need, as a brand, you need to stop doing the job of the rights holder. Very often, and I've done this myself, you're involved in a sport, it's very sexy, and you try and do the job of the sport. As a brand, you're actually borrowing the equity and the culture that exists within that partner. And so you should start realizing that you have a brand story to tell that borrows the equity and the culture from that partnership, from that sports, as opposed to trying to do their job. You're not there to build FIFA or to build their brand. You're using it to drive whatever objectives you have for your brand. So it goes hand in hand. So stop trying to be the rights holder and start being more strategic on how you want your brand to show up in those moments in only the way that your brand can do.
Okay, that's pretty clear. I mean, before you show your film, let me hand it over to Oyin just to get your point of view on this one too.
I think brands I want to say about what I think brands should do more of, and that's experimentation. It's sports, it's fun, so we should have more fun with it. Experiment, play, try, fail. So yeah, what we should stop doing is trying to be perfect. waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right occasion, and allow failure, experimentation to help us learn and to get better.
Amazing. Appreciate you. Brett, you want to speak about the video that you want to show us?
Yeah, I'll just leave you with one piece of content. This is some of the work we did, as I mentioned, on the FIFA World Cup. But it was not about FIFA World Cup. It's about the legacy that we want to leave behind. And it's about us showing up in schools for the next 10 years and bringing soccer to every school in America. So we'll play this to outro.
All right, let's watch it.
Good morning, students. Our new dress code goes into effect today. Grass stains are now encouraged. A friendly reminder that today's geometry class will be held on field number 3. Want to learn the power of harmony? The school choir is looking for a new soprano. The school spelling bee will be crowning a champion.
G-O-L-A-Z-O. Golazo.
Soccer teaches us more than we think. It can teach us the skills that we need to answer the question. What would you like the power to do? Soccer is in session. Bank of America and US Soccer are committed to helping bring soccer to every school.
That's a pretty cool craze. Thank you, guys. That's it from us today.